for God and country.
On its cover today, that is graphics talking about the story that is to support the leading story. Moribund companies not amid insecurity infrastructure decay. We have 10,000 policy somersault worsening situation, 10,000 jobs lost in Borno. 44 years. In the last 44 years, industrialization in most northern states of Nigeria has experienced a gradual but steady decline. 84 in 12 of the 19 northern states. In 12 of the 19 northern states, 84 companies have so far closed shops. 30%. Sales of NASCO products, which is one of the largest employers of labor in the north, has dropped from 70% to 30%. We have states with least industry presence: Adamawa, Kebbi, Jigawa, Taraba. This is very, very informative and, of course, educative as well. For more that, you have to get a copy of Leadership or log on to the website www.leadership.ng. From that leading story, we have other stories on the cover. Today, Monday, 31st July 2023, Leadership postpones conference on drug abuse. World Finance Zenith retains best commercial bank award. Tinubu appoints special investigator to probe CBN. We have cost-low CNG conversion as alternative auto fuel. Cost-low CNG conversion as alternative auto fuel. We have a Reps Committee fallout. Storm gathers in APC as Speaker jets out. That's the story about the masthead of leadership. ECOWAS gives Niger junta 7-day ultimatum to quit. ECOWAS gives Niger junta 7-day ultimatum to quit. And we move over to the page 3 of leadership, where we have anthrax outbreak, need for urgent action. Anthrax outbreak, need for urgent action. From that page 3 of the editorial, we move over to the back page, where we have Mode column with Dakuku Peter side. Niger, trouble in the neighborhood. Niger, trouble in the neighborhood. That's a Mode column by Dakuku Peter side. And of course, we have Ghana Must Go on the back page, always, of leadership. How I mistakenly used customer's card to withdraw cash 5 times. How I mistakenly used customer's card to withdraw cash 5 times. That is from a banker in one of the banks. And Ghana Must Go reply, you will mistakenly go to prison. Funny, isn't it? From leadership, we move over to the next paper on our menu, and that is The Punch. The Punch says, uncover CBN and NPCL men's ignominious groups, Tinubu special investigator. Uncover CBN and NPCL men's economist groups, tell Tinubu special investigator. Tinubu appoints Obaze special investigator. EFCC police orders to join probe. Investigators to go after ex-Buhari appointees, private individuals hiding government funds. We have a picture of President Tinubu flanked by other members of ECOWAS. Niger coup plotters dismiss ECOWAS threat. Bazoum reinstatement. Niger coup plotters dismiss ECOWAS threat. Bazoum reinstatement. Niger Assembly rejects commissioners list over poor Christian inclusion. Niger Assembly rejects commissioner's list over poor Christian inclusion. Kano begins contact tracing as diphtheria spreads to 31 local governments. Over 2,000 Nigerian girls stranded in Mali, NAPTIP. Over 2,000 Nigerian girls stranded in Mali, according to NAPTIP. From that, we move over to the masthead, above the masthead of the Punch. NLC insists on Wednesday strike, mobilizes workers. NLC insists, that is Nigerian Labour Congress, insists on Wednesday strike, mobilizes workers. Kano returns to DSS custody after checkup by personal doctors. 15 ministerial nominees submit credentials ahead of screening. That is the leading stories on the Punch newspaper. We move over to the editorial page of the paper. Let's see what the editorial is saying today. And it's on Tinubu's ministerial gyrations fail to inspire. Tinubu's ministerial gyrations actually fail to inspire. Tinubu's ministerial gyrations fail to inspire. Of course, you know the meaning of gyrations there. Couple campus students, when you are gyrating, you know what that means. And of course, we move over to the the editorial says Tinubu's ministerial gyrations fail to inspire. And the back page of the Punch is a column, hurdles to domestic production, economic imperatives with Sheriff Dean Teller. That's all we can take on the Punch newspaper. For more on the headline stories, inside pages, and the editorial, just log on to the website of the Punch, www.punchng.com. From the Punch, we have Vanguard next on our menu. Vanguard says subsidy remover, Nigeria on brink of collapse, Catholic bishops. Subsidy remover, Nigeria on brink of collapse, Catholic bishops say palliatives never a cure for any economic challenge. Asks federal government to identify those who swindled Nigeria through fuel subsidy, bring them to justice. Knows Nigerians cannot suffer for corruption of a few people. Address workers, Nigerians' pains, NECA urges federal government. One strike, mass protests may cause breakdown of law and order, kill businesses. Presidency keeps mum. ECOWAS meeting on Niger Republic, that is also the picture, just like the Punch, making the cover of Vanguard newspaper with President President Tinubu and other ECOWAS leaders. We have World Finance Banking Awards. Zenith Bank wins Best Commercial Bank in Nigeria. ECOWAS gives Niger rep coup plotters 1 week to restore Bazoum as president. Hostile business environment, foreign investments in manufacturing fall 51% to $978.3 million. Tinubu appoints special investigator to probe CBN-related entities. Above that masthead of Vanguard, we have federal government remains major threat to airline survivor experts. Foster partnership with foreign operators, NCAA. 5 killed in Adamawa as hoodlums loot government private warehouses for food items. Tinubu comments AG Imokwede's Foundation's Endowment Fund for Civil Service Development. For more stories on Vanguard, log on to the website www.vanguardngr.com. From Vanguard, we move over to The Guardian. The Guardian is still on ministerial screening. It says economy, rule of law, foreign policy, security, top agenda for nominees. Economy, rule of law, foreign policy, security, top agenda for nominees. We have key expectations from Tinubu's government and cabinet addressing security challenges, foreign policy, economic revamp, and poverty reduction, respect for rule of law. We also have pictures of the nominees, ministerial nominees, on the cover of The Guardian. Unemployment concerns as 7 firms lose 624 billion naira to naira depreciation. Unemployment concerns as 7 firms lose 624 billion naira to naira depreciation. NLC mobilizes civil society ahead of Wednesday's action. Anti-corruption, Tinubu appoints special investigator, probes CBN-related entities. Presidential Tribunal, INEC, Tinubu, Atiku, Obi to adopt final addresses tomorrow. Above these stories, we have Niger coup leaders want ECOWAS as Commission imposes sanctions. Native doctor pays 350 million naira ransom, recounts kidnappers killing of 20. Tinubu commends AIG Foundation for Civil Service Development. We also move over to the editorial page of The Guardian to see what the editorial is on today. And the editorial is on the DSS and Godwin Emefiele. The DSS and Godwin Emefiele. To find out what the editorial is saying on that headline, just log on to the website of The Guardian. And for also inside stories and headline stories as well, www.guardian.ng. From the Guardian newspaper, we move over to THISDAY newspaper. THISDAY's newspaper review. THISDAY says ECOWAS orders Niger junta to reinstate ousted president in 1 week or be forced out. ECOWAS orders Niger junta to reinstate ousted president in 1 week or be forced out. Moves other actions if demands not met, imposes sanctions. Don't send troops here, coup leaders warn regional leadership. Military action may be counterproductive, Peace Pro warns. Atiku plays Economics Intelligence Unit prediction on 2023 presidential election. As 100 naira arbitrage emerges in forest markets, EIU predicts return to dual exchange rates before year end. As 100 naira arbitrage emerges in forest markets, EIU predicts return to dual exchange rates before year end. Argues that CBN dollar parallel market 870 naira per dollar. For foreign exchange unification, MTN, Nestle, Dangote Cement, others suffered 486.82 billion naira losses in first half. Tinubu appoints Obaze special investigator for CBN. As federal government honors civil servants for saving Nigeria 7 trillion naira in litigation. Above the masthead, we have Falana to federal government. NLC's planned protest does not violate any law nor court order. Double honors for Zenith at London Stock Exchange as bank retains 2 awards. Adjudged Best Commercial Bank, Best Corporate Governance Bank in Nigeria. And just like we did in previous papers, we want to see what the editorial is saying today. We move over to the editorial page of THISDAY. Here we have airlines cannot afford to cut corners. Airlines cannot afford to cut corners. They must maintain high safety standards. Nigeria has maintained a good record of air safety for about a decade now. To ensure that this good record is sustained, concerned agencies and airlines must adhere strictly to safety standards. For more on that, the inside stories and of course the headline stories, log on to the website of THISDAY, www.thisdaylive.com. From THISDAY, we move over to our next paper, Blueprint. Blueprint also has a similar story. It says ECOWAS to Niger coupist. ECOWAS to Niger coupist. Reinstate Bazoum in 7 days of face our wrath. Rosa sanctions against mutineers. It's time to talk about our lives, freedom, protesters. Stay off. We are prepared to defend our country, military leaders. And we have picture of President Tinubu flanked by ECOWAS leaders on that page. We have World Finance Zenith 3 times best commercial corporate governance bank. Cash shortages reduce MTN's revenue from fintechs by 39.4%. UBA adjusts staff welfare upward over rising cost of living. That's a good one, cherry news so far. Tinubu appoints special investigator to probe CBN, key government business entities. 6 report on public wealth with corrupt individuals, establishments. Forest market liberalization will attract foreign investors, boost capital inflows, PwC. Ilorin 2-month-old baby stolen during school graduation ceremony. Adamawa orders 24-hour curfew as hungry youth cut away food items. We move over to the editorial page of Blueprint newspaper, and the Blueprint editorial is on matters arising from Anti-Human Trafficking Day. matters arising from anti-human trafficking day. For more on that, log on to the website of Blueprint newspaper, www.blueprint.ng. From Blueprint, we move over to the last paper on our menu today, and that is The Nation. The Nation is living still with the ECOWAS threats. The ECOWAS threatens military action against Niger junta. ECOWAS threatens military action against Niger junta. Tinubu-led sub-regional body gets AU, US, others backing. Sanctions slammed on country coupists. Will Niger Republic junta surrender? That's the story on page 2 of NECA. Orders to NLC. Protesters hijack likely. Falana is not illegal. Ondo APC happy with nomination of Tunji Ojo as how ministerial nominees will be screened by Senate. Curfew in Adamawa after looting of food items. We move over to the editorial page of The Nation. Let's see what The Nation's editorials are saying today, because they usually go with 2 editorials every day. Today's editorial is on persistent rate hike. The CBN needs to look beyond this if the economy is to rebound. Persistent rate hike. The CBN needs to look beyond this if the country is to rebound. And of course, we have a quote: a good step going forward is for the CBN to start with itself. One of the reasons the country is in this sorry pass is the reckless accommodation of the federal government's fiscal profligacy of the immediate past. For more on that, log on to the website and read more on the editorial. Persistent rate hike. We have the second one: national shame. Those responsible for the brawl between DSS and NCS should not go unpunished. National shame is the editorial topic for on the Nation newspaper today, and is the second editorial on that page. Those responsible for the brawl between DSS and NCS should not go unpunished. Under the immediate past regime, interagency rivalry was a major source of embarrassment, and we all that such should be avoided under the current dispensation. For more on that, editorials, 2 editorials: President rate hike and national shame. And of course, the headline stories and inside stories as well. Just log on to the website of The Nation, www.thenationonlineng.net. For viewers, this is where we end the first segment of the show, newspaper review on the Inside Nigeria. Don't forget, we have the second segment coming in. Of course, my guest, my mother guest, is already in the house waiting to do justice to some of the headline stories. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and country.
Yes, welcome once again. The program is Inside Nigeria, your breakfast show on television. My name is Winifred Webo, and this is the second segment of the show. And with me in the studio is my mother guest. He's a political economist. He's also a public affairs analyst, Aliu Elias.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here every Monday.
Yeah, and it's always a pleasure to host you on the program.
Thank you.
So where do we start from? We are on leadership. Leadership says moribund companies doth not amid insecurity, infrastructure decay. What is happening? And of course, we've had successive governments in the north over the years, and nothing has been done to revamp these industries. Yet every quarter they come to Abuja to collect their effect allocation. What is happening?
Right.
It's what we are saying. Governors are not thinking out of the box.
It appears leadership is taking the lead in terms of expository and reviewing a lot of things. Because I recall last week too, it was something beautiful too. Right. It's quite exposed our governors and their inability and inefficiency to make sure they do something within their terrain to make Nigerians survive. Because you must survive your environment by making sure that companies there survive. And that's what we are saying. If you look at when we have global crisis, even the government will pump money into private sector. So how can you open your eye in your own state and companies are dying, they are going moribund every now and then? It's a wrong signal. And they always
leadership in 12 out of the northern states, 84 companies have so far closed shop.
Right.
And governors are not worried.
It's fact. You recall that textile is always very, NASCO. We know that in the north, that's the biggest employer of labor.
Even those from the south, like us from the south, we've always heard of NASCO.
Even in Kwara here, we have Okin, biscuits, all of them. NASCO, they have become a shadow of itself. So it's pathetic. And that's reveal and expose our governors that they always come cap in hand to the center to collect. When you grow your local industry, it saves you a whole lot. It will bring income to your coffer because you collect taxes. It will bring employment. It will also reduce civil unrest. Because when these people are not working, what do they do? Look at what happened in Adamawa. People that are busy, that are working, cannot go to such a place and break it. And my challenge is that I hope that will not replicate in other states.
Yes, that's the worry. So, but we have come to a situation whereby many of these governors, they are not thinking out of the box. And I have a guest, Majida, who holds the opinion that government, it's foolishness to say that government has no business in doing business. That government actually has a lot to do in doing business. We have about 1984 companies that have closed shop. What do you think about our leaders? Does it mean that we've not had leaders that are actually know what they are doing, that can actually revive the economy of their state?
Let's go through the basic economies. There's a theory called Keynesian theory. Keynesian theory said government must intervene to make sure things are stabilized, to make sure things get to equilibrium and they break even. If a company is existing and is not making money, it will close. But if government comes in, back them up, make some provision for them, they will definitely work. So the challenge now is on the governor. You can see that people think Lagos State, Kaduna State, even Port Harcourt are doing because they try. Look at Governor Rufai. For consecutive 8 years, he always have Kaduna Summit, Economic Summit. What's the idea? Is to inject some things that they need, and before you know it, they increase the IGR of that state. So any state that is not, in fact, there should be a kind of KPI, key performance indicator, that federal government will give to state, that if you don't meet up such percentage of what you need to collect, we will not give you the allocation you're supposed to get. So I think if federal government give that condition, they will go back, work in and look at how they can develop their own environment to provide money for them. But if government does not give them kind of KPI that they need to work and government want to see what they are actually doing, they will always come cap in hand and Nigeria will continue to suffer.
Now, my take is that, again, on this issue is that actually, what do these governors, what do they campaign with during the election?
Well, the campaign, Nigerian, that's another problem that we have. Most people want to collect what governors is bringing. We're not looking at their blueprint. So citizens must also do their part. As a Nigerian, I must also do my part.
If the governor in a state will just fold his arms and say, no, I'm not going to do anything to engage, provide a common economic development in my state, engage some of the unemployed. Of course, government cannot employ all the.
At least they need to create, what? We're not even asking governors to create.
Then what day are they now sitting?
We're not even asking governor to employ.
Yes.
How many? A governor may not be able to employ more than 1 million.
Exactly.
But the thing is, create enabling environment.
So what is the government doing
to actually work and doing business? If you don't create that enabling environment, they cannot work.
So what most of these governors actually doing? They will just sit down there. Oh, now that there's insecurity, okay, there's insecurity. My main challenge now is how to keep everywhere secure, and without considering economic development.
If there's no socio-economic development,
for instance,
security will also be a difficult issue.
The Rivers State governor, he just stepped in, and the next thing is signing a partnership with Julius Berger to construct more
about 200 billion.
Exactly.
Apart from that, I will keep on going back to Erufai. Erufai also create what we call dry seaport. So do you know what? Do you know that thinking behind that? That all the north will now see Kaduna as a logistic capital of the north. That's a good economic plan. So what I think we should do is that there's what we call comparative advantage. Every state should go back, sit down, and look at what they have advantage on. If your own is groundnut, invest more in groundnut. If your own is kola nut, do more. If your own is cocoa, do more. Then by so doing, you will have engaged more people in that trade, in that activities, and it will bring more money to your state. It will create employment. It will also reduce juvenile delinquency. So if you don't do that, it's pretty difficult for you to achieve the expected economy that you
and leadership also said that states with least industry presence: Adamawa, Kebbi, Jigawa, Taraba.
This is quite clear. Though when you say industry, these people also have arrables of land. Most of them is farming. But have they harness the value chain? When you say farming, harness the value chain, lot of value chain. Anything you produce, make sure you take it to semi-finish or finish. Then people will buy it from you. So that's what I think they should do.
We all know that Nigeria has the largest
in terms of farming, we are very strong.
Of shea butter. What are you doing to refine
ginger,
the shea butter? Because
things,
you don't have to export. Why don't you provide, just like what you said, this value chain to some of these farm
So value chain is what I think we should harness now. So a very responsive governor, we know that farming is our business. Okay, in this farming, how have you tried to empower these farmers? Not waiting for anchor borrower from the federal capital.
Because see groundnut that you have in these states now, you now still take it out to now come back as peanuts.
That's why I say Nigeria is operating a rentier economy, where all our raw material is being exported, turn it to finish, and you now buy it at international price. So what are we even working on? So it's as if that we're just put our hand looking, and after 4 years we contest, then after 8 years we pack our bags. So they're not having any socio-economic development agenda. So I also blame.
That's why I asked, what do they actually campaign with during elections?
It's quite pathetic and appalling that we are still dwelling. I should also blame the citizen too, because we also have our own responsibility. Some of us are looking at the money the governors are giving us during their campaign. We're not looking at what they're going to do to better our life. Some schools are offering free education. Some are offering free heads to some level. Why some does not care at all? So all these have negative impact. So while you are collecting those money, you're also selling your future, the future of your children, the future of your generation. Because when there is no development now, you are going to suffer it for the next 50 years. And children will also take over from it. And I'd like to also tell you that I don't know why most newspapers, none of them take a good significance of the screening that is going to come today, except I think Guardian that takes that screening. It's also vital to us to look at those things. So these people that President Tinubu has put forward for screening as a nomination for screening as Minister of the Federal Nigeria as a whole, what quality are they bringing? What category of people? Do we even do well in affirmation of gender affirmation? So now, if you ask me, I think it's a good presentation, because we still have 28. We are expecting. We don't know the number we are expecting yet. However, this bill is bringing is a mixture of politicians and technocrats. We can't run away from the technocrat, because if you look at someone like Ali Pate, you know that he has done well. So I even get the confidence of Gavi. Gavi that is known for vaccines to have appointed him, and now he's coming back. And you also see politicians. You see 4 governors. You see 4 governors. You see David Umahi. You see Wike. You see Erufai. You see Badaru. Now, we cannot reduce these people's capacity, but sometimes we also have the issue of why are you still parading?
Because Umahi has actually tried in the state.
In fact, there is no way you can compare him to many governors in terms of development. If you go to the state, he's a new Ebonyi, because his engineering experience has brought to bear. So if we have someone like
quality of
and even education, even give us University of Health or something. If you now bring someone like him to Ministry of Health, you see, Ministry of Works and housing, that's a beautiful one. If you bring Wike, Ministry of Works, it's a different, you have to look at all those. So I think it's a good one. But
is an engineer.
And we can also see that, how do you see it, Winifred? Women has been well considered.
Oh yes, well considered. And even our columnist is there, Hanatu Musawa.
That is a beautiful one. They have also do well.
As special advisor.
So should we now say this president is trying to make do with what he promised for women?
Yes, I think seeing the list so far, I think it's quite
We
encouraging.
pray it will reflect
It's quite
that in the
encouraging.
economy, because economy still matters.
It
And these are the
matters.
people that are going to handle them. So going forward, we expect other names, because there are some states that are not
Yes,
are considered. For
about
instance,
10
like
states.
my state is not.
Okay, where's your state?
My state is Kogi State, is not
Okay.
considered yet. And
Kogi,
a lot of,
we
and
have
FCT,
Kano, we have,
FCT is
Taraba,
also
we have all the
agitating
states.
seriously that FCT is not. And I want to join the voice to say FCT actually they actually deserve minister. It's not there. But it's not there. There's no FCT. It's not there. It's not mentioned yet. We are hoping maybe they will mention it.
Okay.
That subsequent, because they need to be represented.
Maybe it was the fake visa or something.
It was everywhere, so we expect them to also bring it. But then the case of I don't know if you want us to speak on the.
Yes. Thank you so much. We just spoke on there, and the NSC threatening strike says that there's no going back. And I want you just to throw just a few light, because you talked about what happened in Adamawa State, that they broke into government warehouse and carted away some food items. That was what exactly played out during NSAS protest that many people took to government warehouses. Remember, they had COVID palliatives then,
right,
that most of these governors were not giving out, but I don't know what time
they find their way to the to the warehouse.
So now, and we've unanimously agreed that there's poverty, hunger in the land. So are we going to see more of that?
Well, NLC,
and just on the backdrop that the NLC say no going back.
Yes, actually listen to Joe Ajero. He said it is not a strike.
Okay.
It is a rally.
Okay, it's a rally.
On Wednesday. So it's not a strike, it is a rally. But I fear, according to a seller, former trade union unionist, he said it can be hijacked. And if you look at what happened at Adamawa, it's a precursor for us to be very, very careful. Because once it is coming up like that, it's people want to, add, because poverty is deeping and everybody wants to express themselves, and that's the problem. So the federal government needs to really work hard to really maybe provide security for NLC.
That's exactly what
because I wouldn't support that NLC should back down in terms of their because NLC now is now seen as a toothless bulldog, a backless dog as well. So NSC need to do more to agenda the fact that they are actually fighting for the citizens. So I think government should provide adequate security. But my question is that, is it going to be pari passu? When we are having NLC protests in Abuja, is it going to also be in all the states? These are the things we need to look at. Because if they don't understand that, you may say you control FCT.
What about
control other states? That's the question.
Many people are going to take it as a signal to, what happens and not to stop, to be unruly, right, and create this thing. So that is all we can take on this issue on leadership and the ministerial nominee screening. We are moving to another headline story from other papers as well, and that is the main story on other papers, though it featured in these other papers like leadership, but it's the prominent one, and that is the Niger coup and the 7-day ultimatum given to the Niger junta to reinstate ousted president in 1 week or be forced out.
This quickly reminds me of President Obasanjo when he said in Sao Tome and Principe that they should reinstate this civilian democratic elected president, and it's actually happened. But I have issue with this Niger report because it has many hands in it. Now ECOWAS has taken their stand that in 7 days they should reinstate them, and
face military.
And AU is supporting ECOWAS. That's the beautiful African Union. The US is supporting ECOWAS as well. But the thing is that, are we ready to trade off such finance and our military to go and fight in Niger? That's a good question. Is this case not also have international dimension? Because I read somewhere
that Russia
Wagner is also coming there. So we must be careful not to have a big trouble that will not be able to contain. So I think ECOWAS should also engage Russia to tell them that this is not what we want in our environment.
In this case, you say we should be careful. There's nothing you can do about it, because the President Tinubu is the chairman of ECOWAS.
Right.
So he cannot run away from it. And
perhaps it's also show a direction for Nigeria army. If you tolerate them, they are so close to us. That means, so that's why it's also, but perhaps you see that it's about African country are being taken over by military. So it's a wrong signal. So they must stand on their feet, and I support them. If they don't stand on their feet, the same thing will seem to be replicated, because this military can also help themselves to achieve some aim. However, let's condemn poverty. Poverty is becoming a serious problem,
In
and this
Africa.
army are giving are using that as an excuse to take over from. But another thing that President Tinubu needs to be very careful of. Remember that Nigeria have a is a refugee camp in Niger Republic. So if you want to fight in Niger, or ECOWAS want to really use military force, please make sure you evacuate these people out from there, because you also recall that citizens are also support what military are doing there. The
Yes.
citizens are running after military, I mean,
Some
civilians, some ministers, and vandalizing things and whatever. And I think that's offshoot of that is what happened at Adama. So we have to be careful to manage the case meticulously so that it will not have a serious issue. I also celebrate African leader with what they do. You remember there's Russia-Africa summit recently.
Yes.
If you notice,
Vice President.
yes,
was
notice
there,
Nigerian
the
leaders
President
are very, very meticulous. They did not send, most presidents did not go. They send their vice president, because they don't want to be in the bad record of the US. They don't also want to be in the bad record of Russia. So they are trying to be so meticulous. I think it's a good idea, but they should also replicate that in this ECOWAS problem. Because if you don't really face Niger now, is a precursor that other one may also want to go the same line. So I think they're in the right direction, but they should consult properly. I'm ready for the finance, because Nigeria is always financing about 65% of ECOWAS activities, and we also need finance.
But now, my question is, my take is that what about sending military, using the military force to reinstate the ousted president? Our military presently is beleaguered, considering the insecurity challenges they've had to contend with in the country for how many years now?
Well, I don't want to agree in that direction.
Yeah,
you know why?
has.
I won't agree in that direction, because the challenge we have in Nigeria is not even military major issues. It has to be kinetic and non-kinetic. So the problem is that we are trying to use firearm to solve what we could solve different way. But if it is this case
how
of
is there any
Niger,
other way you can solve it? Because are you towing the line of Gumi, who said the amnesty should be given to the
no, not amnesty. We have police. You know, we are taking away police responsibility. We should do investigation
because
proper.
we have a situation whereby police is not able to contend.
If
That's
you do, that's why I said, if you do,
it's coming in.
they're supposed to do territorial, integrity. If they will do a lot of investigation properly, you can get to the root of these matters. It's not by carrying gun in the long run, because you may have to investigate. Somebody is leading these people. When you get these people, the major leader down, others will definitely surrender. But in the case of Niger,
but you just said what has always been my submission, because you hear paper report, a commander of Boko Haram was captured, and you have not been able to get the source of it.
So that I think that's what
you
I'm
see
saying.
here, some financials have been gotten. Then how come you have not been leading?
The thing is still
you begin to ask yourself, how ready is the country actually in tackling?
Right. I think if we have to, we are waiting for Tinubu blueprint on how to solve insurgency. We hope it will be. But in terms of Niger own his war, his proper war, that's Ecomong have to go and really bad. It has happened in Liberia, if you don't forget.
Yes.
During Charles Taylor. It has happened in Sierra Leone. It has happened in Guinea. So I think it's what they can do. But because if we don't tame these people, this thing will continue to happen and will be at the mercy of the military. Imagine Nigeria going back 20 years. What we have, that should be a bad omen for.
No, it's situation where we have the civilians backing the military.
I think that's sign that those democratically elected leaders are mostly corrupt, and people are suffering poverty. You can't be living large and citizens are suffering, and that's where we should also learn in Nigeria. Our political leaders should reduce their overture and how they really take a next fund for themselves and consider the citizen. You understand? Just like the Senate president, though he has apologized, he said let the poor breathe. He has apologized.
You are in support of allowing the poor to breathe. Say it was, and he was laughing.
It was exactly, but I read it on his handle. He has apologized and say why he actually mentioned that. So we should be careful with sensitivity of the poor. Poor does not have any weapon than to protest and think of destroying things. So, but if you make sure you manage them, and I always give example of how we can move people from poverty level down to at least to a particular level. So we have to do more. So, and like President said, he's going to discuss with us this evening. We're also expecting President Bola Tinubu to come out with a word of hope, a blueprint of how the economy is going to develop and how Nigeria will not fall into chaos. President Tinubu needs to be very, very careful and talk to the sensitivity of Nigeria. Nigeria are sacrificing already. Fuel subsidy is affecting us. You know, Naira float is affecting us. A lot of things.
Price tariff,
a lot of things. So president should also come, because the most of his write-up, the handler must do more to really make sure they placate and talk to sensitivity of Nigeria tonight.
I know that the situation he met on the ground was actually bad, you understand, considering the fact that those 8 years just before he took over were actually nothing to. It took
Some people call it a wasted 8 years. 8
years.
Right.
You know, truly, the president came in at the time that even, in fact, during the campaigns, the president that is going to take over, during the election,
right, he knew that there's a lot of growth.
That there's so much.
But you will agree with me that we have the past president and they are much of like Hadasiko. You know, they look at things going wrong before they take action. So we need a proactive president who will take things as it is coming and make sure he solve problem even before it occurs.
Yes, and what do you have to say just before we go about Tinubu appointing special investigator to post TBN? It's about time.
I think it's a contradiction itself. Nigeria is becoming a situation whereby you started to arrest people before you now probe the person. If you look at it, it's in the opposite direction. It's a good one to really investigate.
Putting the horse before the
exactly. It's good to do investigation, but do investigation before you arrest. Not that you arrest and rearrest. And the drama that happened between DSS and NCS, it's a pity that it happens. And we have not even heard anything from the
DSS kept on possession of a handgun.
I imagine that because
for even economic
reasons. So I think they should do more and maybe
Inside Nigeria, brought to you on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Ubebo, and of course you've heard from my Monday guest, Aliu Elias. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So till we come your way again, same time tomorrow with another guest. Here is wishing you a beautiful day. Bye.
Be part. Leadership for God and country.